Hey, it's Armin with Attract. At Attract Advisors, we offer accounting advisory, tax advisory, as well as financial management services. We're lucky enough to work with very many hardworking, talented entrepreneurs across many different industries. Many of these individuals are world-class in their sphere and have great stories to tell. This is our way of highlighting their accomplishments and their insights, and we hope you enjoy these conversations.
Hey everybody, welcome back to our next episode of Kickin Assets. I'm joined today by my childhood friend, former roommate, and now fellow entrepreneur, Aldo Russo. Thanks for being here, Aldo.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. I'm excited to do this. Tell everybody about myself, our business, and then what I think about you guys too.
Thank you. So we first met, man, probably 12 years old. I think you had just moved up from New Orleans to Baton Rouge. Mm-hmm. And I'm curious for the audience to hear about your life as a child, and what was it like growing up?
Yeah, so this is gonna be a long-winded answer because that's a big question. So, born in the Dominican Republic, both my parents and my family, we moved to Connecticut. That was our first stop. Went to New Orleans, or River Ridge, right outside of New Orleans, and then went to school there. Before Hurricane Katrina, my parents split up. I eventually moved in with my dad, and then that's whenever we became great best friends. So that part of my life, being an immigrant to the United States, seeing my dad work so hard, the work ethic he instilled in us as children really made an impact on my life and where I am now. Fast forward, my road to entrepreneurship was a roller coaster. Obviously we graduated high school, went to LSU, decided that the pre-med thing wasn't for me, dropped out, became a firefighter, and then found home inspection, the industry, through a mutual friend of ours, Kyle Harden. And then I saw the opportunity there not to just work for myself, but to run a business and be a leader of people. Mm-hmm. So.
And one thing, there's a lot to unpack there, right? Because, we're talking 15 years of true development and lessons learned and things like that. And one thing that always surprised me about you is that both of your parents, Spanish was their first language, and you literally have no accent and don't speak a lot of Spanish.
Yeah.
So what was that like growing up?
So I guess I have nobody to blame but myself, right? The reason why I don't speak a lot of Spanish is because I never used it. But you come to the United States as a 4.5-year-old, 5-year-old, you're integrated into everything. I can proudly say I'm a graduate of Hooked on Phonics. My mom put me on that early on because I didn't speak any English, right? And it was a process. I learned through, going to pre-K, kindergarten, watching TV, Hooked on Phonics. And then eventually I did not have an accent. But my vocabulary in Spanish is that of a 7-year-old, right? Because I stopped doing the familiar. I only had familial vocabulary. Mm-hmm. Now, being an educated adult, you teach yourself certain things, and I'm able to communicate with people. Yo puedo hablar español muy bien y sin acento, pero I said I can speak Spanish very well, but without an accent. But I still have to, teach myself, the syntax or words, mm-hmm. vocabulary, same way you would, in English.
Mm-hmm. And so let's talk about that move, right? Because I remember when you came to our school, and you were the only person with brown skin, pretty much.
Nerd.
and pretty shy. And actually, I think the way that we first became friends is through our mutual friend, CJ McLennan, who I've known CJ, and we've been friends since we were 4 years old. We were neighbors and all of that. And I'm curious, what was it like for you to make that move to just go into a school where nobody looked like you, nobody really knew you? I think you even came in mid-year. What was that like for you?
So that's actually a great question. you just learn to adapt, right? And I didn't know I was adapting at that time, but you just learn to adapt and integrate, and we can talk about genes and biology and how that makes a person. Sure, I was shy at first, but I feel like I am one pressed and an outgoing person, so that all plays into it too. But yeah, I mean, moving from the Dominican Republic to Connecticut, to River Ridge, to Baton Rouge kind of primed me for, hey, these are new people, we got to make friends. CJ was super outgoing, so he didn't make it hard. But yeah, that's what I think about.
And then fast forward, through high school, I know you homecoming court and, you were popular and all of that. And like everybody liked you. I know that in high school you had, a pretty serious injury that I think looking back probably taught you a lot about persistence. And so can you kind of talk to that a little bit?
Yeah. So I had a couple injuries in high school. I think the first one was the one you're talking about, compartment syndrome. So, and that's foreign to people that, don't experience very large, trauma, or don't sustain very large trauma to large muscle groups, but more so seen in car accidents where the impact is super fast and super hard. But you hear about it in sports like, football and the NFL. Basically, my right lower leg, my calf, felt like a dead leg, right? We were playing in Lutcher, I think. I don't know. We were both, it was a JV game, right? I ended up playing the rest of the game. And then on the bus, it just kept on getting, more and more swollen. The next day, it was super swollen. Skin was hard to the touch. My dad saw me when I came home from school, and he thought I was going to lose circulation in my foot. So we went to the ER immediately. And they ended up having to cut my leg open to let the muscle breathe, expand, and then eventually contract, and they sewed it up. The recovery was, pretty lengthy. But yeah, that, and then I blew out my ACL playing basketball in PE.
But amputation was on the menu for a time, right? With the compartment syndrome.
So because people didn't really know what they were looking at, compartment syndrome doesn't happen, so it's not as common. So like, because it got to the point to where it did, without any kind of intervention, then yeah, that was on the table. It was all happening so fast at the time. I didn't really have time to be scared, right? But yeah, that was on the table. And then, man, being an active person, participating in sports, having that injury, and then the ACL right after that, you go through a sense of adversity, right? You have to overcome all that. I was on crutches for like, I don't know, 4 or 5 months. So,
and so fast forwarding through that, like, you had adversity, but you went to LSU, pre-med, all that type of stuff.
Man,
what's really funny to look back now, and maybe a lot of people don't know this, but I think we're far enough removed from this joke that, you mentioned that LSU didn't quite work out, but what you didn't mention was that you actually faked going to school for a couple of months before you got found out that you had actually withdrawn from classes.
Man,
talk about that.
Yeah, it's a tough pill to swallow as a young adult with our underdeveloped brains. Like, how do you tell your parents that you're not going to continue?
Because you were a good student.
Good student. The problem that we both face, probably as entrepreneurs, any entrepreneur, they take on a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Right. So I was determined to do everything I could to stand out. Class hour load was anywhere from 15 to, I had 19 hours one semester. I wanted a dual major in biology and nutrition. I was working a part-time, full-time job at the ER. I don't know if you remember that. So it was a lot. And looking back, I would have probably told myself to just spread it out a little bit more. And then, it got to the point to where I lost the motivation.
And bodybuilding too, right? Did you do a bodybuilding show?
Yeah. So me, I have to focus on something, right? And because of everything I was going through in school and not feeling like I lived up to the expectation that I've made for myself, we were already working out, dude. Me and you and Doug were working out 4:30 in the morning at Callaway's as a high school student.
Yeah.
Nobody does that. That's another topic we can talk about, like the discipline that takes and what that has done for our life. You know, so I was already, you know, a fit individual. I think it was Patrick Stone, shout out Patrick Stone, who said, "Hey, dude, you can, you know, step on stage right now and be competitive. Why don't you think about doing this?" And then I was like, you know what, sure. So I tried that. I ended up doing really well in the show. I think I placed second in my first show. That also, the bodybuilding aspect of going in, day out, the monotony, the consistency that you need to have to do that, and then the meal prep, all prepares you for, you know, doing what you say you're going to do. But yeah, I use that kind of as a way to, you know, cope with what I was going through. At the same time, you know, like I said, I always have to do something. There's got to be a plan. So I found the Baton Rouge Fire Department, supplemented that work with working at the Apple Store. And then I did that for several years until, you know, I eventually landed on home inspections.
And, you know, that was about the time that we lived together, right? Kind of coming off of college and, you know, our first 2 to 4 years of, like, you know, being young professionals. And that was the time when I was studying for the CPA exam. Yeah. And so my wife, Lexi, you know, lived with us at the time. So it was me, Doug, Aldo, Lexi, and then Doug's dog, Sadie. And Lexi kind of became, you know, kind of the de facto caretaker for Sadie. And you know, you worked kind of shift work. So you guys, you know, you and Lexi got to really bond together. In fact, the other day she mentioned, like, there was one time when I was studying for the CPA exam and you and Lexi went out to eat for her birthday. Yeah. And so just to show how, you know, important Aldo has kind of been, you know, through the years. And so to our family. And, you know, I think back to your time as a firefighter, and then, you know, let's talk about that a little bit, because being a first responder is, like, it's no joke. It is probably one of the more underappreciated services that are out there. And, you know, there were skills that you acquired, but things that you saw, you know, put life into perspective. Talk about that a bit.
Yeah. So first responders, they don't get paid enough. And I feel like part of the reason why I was looking for different avenues to get more revenue at a young age in my career was because you have to supplement it somehow. So shout out to all the first responders. But whenever you go through, you know, the emergency medical response training, the firefighter, you know, school, you learn all the technical skills to, you know, deploy in the real world. But nobody really teaches you. Nobody holds your hand on, you know, how to talk to somebody who has just gotten in a wreck. Maybe they lost or they're about to lose their loved one because they can't, you know, come back from, you know, the wreck, the damages that were sustained. Nobody prepares you for that. So it's really a hard hit, hard dose of reality whenever you're a young individual and you got to go through that. You almost need a background in psychology. So I really dug deep into that. I love psychology. I love how people think. I love how decisions are made. So yeah, you see a lot firsthand. You get a real good grasp of what the real world is outside of all the BS, media, news. You know, whenever people call first responders, they are calling you at their worst moment. So you might feel kind of jaded because what you see is, you know, the bad stuff all the time, but you do get some kind of recognition whenever you show up, you know, and help people out. I feel like the people that do it intrinsically are people that want to help, you know. But yeah, that taught me a lot about how to, you know, be an adult in high stakes situations, about how to talk to people, about, you know, what do I do to de-escalate a situation when somebody's being combative. Those things are super important and they're not necessarily communicated, whenever you're going through the schooling that everybody goes through. So that really taught me how to, integrate those psychological skills into our business right now.
And, we kind of glossed over it, but you spent a few years at Apple. And at the time, I mean, they were the number one company in the world. They're still probably up there. And, that was around the time of, a few years after the iPhone came out, the iPad was coming out. Like, what kind of life lessons did you learn working for such a company like that?
Have you had the luxury of going to the Apple store whenever it's prime? Like, hey, everybody's in there and they need something.
Yeah, no, I avoid those times.
Yeah, so different kind of high stakes situation.
Yeah.
But, working for a company that really values their employees taught me a lot. It taught me, as a leader, what I should expect from myself to my people. They want to empower people not just to be good within the Apple store, but to be good individually too. And it taught me how to deal with people that are coming in because, hey, they're a business owner and how they operate their business is through their phone and it's not working. Help me out, right? And there sometimes isn't a black and white answer. It's in the gray area, the back and forth communication, the empathy, the understanding of it all that gets you to the right answer. So again, nobody's there. They're teaching you the skills on how to technically diagnose a problem, but nobody's there holding your hand saying, hey, this is how you talk to this person, right? Hey, they just got a new phone and all their stuff is gone. All their pictures, their 5,000 photos of their family is gone and they're crying right now. How do you, what do you do? How do you help them? So,
and it sounds like there were like soft skills and, to your point, empathy and getting on someone's level, in order to communicate, to get a point across, all things that really make great leaders and make great entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about, your foray into entrepreneurship and, kind of what those early months looked like for you.
Yeah. So I guess after a certain amount of time at the fire department, I said to myself, hey, this isn't going to cut it. Where I want to be in life and where I am right now, I can't achieve that doing this. As sad as that may seem, being a firefighter was an awesome job. Some consider it the best job. You hear that all the time. You really have, a really good sense of camaraderie with the guys you work with, and you get to help people out. But, the income, the revenue wasn't there. And I want a family, so I can remember reaching out to Kyle, the founder of HDMK, after we were introduced by a mutual friend. And at that point in time, I was either ready to drop $15K on lawn equipment and start my own lawn business or go into home inspections. I saw very quickly Kyle's operations and what he had going on afforded me not only the opportunity to make something of myself, but grow into a bigger, better person, personally and professionally. So that's the road I went down, and I haven't looked back since.
And all of the adversity that you overcame through the years, and then the skills that you developed through the years, really primed you, for all of this.
Yeah.
And so you learn about this HDMK company. You decide to buy a franchise, and what was your expectation going in there, and what was reality?
Yeah. So we have this conversation with all of our new hires, which is a great conversation. Home inspection, the picture everybody has of a home inspector is somebody, maybe an older gentleman that walks in, tells you what's wrong with the house, presents it to you, you're done. It's way more than that. It's relationship building. It's managing emotions, on the buyer side, the seller side, presenting issues that to somebody who doesn't know about it may think it's a big deal, but it's really not. So all of the psychological aspects of, you know, the things that I learned in my previous jobs, careers, translated or transferred into what I'm doing now, which is awesome. I mean, everything that you do, if I were to tell a young person, you know, we're old now, by the way. If I were to tell a young person, you know, what do I do to prepare myself for, you know, my late 20s, you know, early 30s, everything is reps. Everything is reps. So take everything for what it is at face value, but also know that what you're doing is you're turning yourself into the person that you're going to become. So HDMK right now, Aldo started off as a home inspector. Now I run a franchise. I employ, I think, 8 people, and we're trying to grow, expand. I like to say, you know, we're your one-stop shop for anything inspection related, residential or commercial. So that's buyer-seller inspections, that's sewer inspections, mold assessments, lead tests, asbestos testing, and then now we have a fortified division. So we could talk about that a little bit more too, but basically we oversee construction projects that are built to a more resilient standard. So.
And so you start off as a home inspector, you buy a franchise, you build a team, and at first, you know, we know as leaders, like, you have to be a leader to yourself.
Yeah.
You have to hold yourself to a standard. You have to keep your promises to yourself. And then as you grow with the team, you're even under more scrutiny because now you're asking other people to keep promises to you, and other people to keep promises to themselves, and other people to keep promises to their customers, and then hold them accountable to that. And so becoming a leader there and having a team with you, what were some of the challenges that you felt that were really unexpected? Like personalities and inconsistencies, and just thinking like, man, is this really the person that I hired?
Yeah.
Like, can you talk about that a little bit? Building a team?
Yeah. I'm getting goosebumps right now because now you're getting into the nitty gritty of what it means to be a leader.
Yeah.
So being a home inspector and operating under yourself, you know, that's one thing. But being a business operator, a true entrepreneur, now that your job has changed from a technical, you know, technician or, you know, a CPA to you've got to manage and lead a group of people. 2 very different things. So, and then I always say it's our job as leaders to guide people in the right path, to make sure they're meeting their you know, expectations and stuff. But if somebody is not doing something correctly, it really falls on you, right? It's either, hey, I didn't explain this well enough, or hey, I didn't have the right systems and processes in place, or maybe I gave them too much to handle right now. We've got to divert, you know, this responsibility to somebody else. Maybe, hey, I'm used to wearing 4 hats. I can accomplish all these things, you know, not gracefully, but it gets done. That person isn't going to be able to do what I do. So maybe their role is maybe 2 roles. So we'll take some of the responsibilities and shift it over here. You have to have this awareness and acuity and, you know, high level overview to be able to catch these things and manage them appropriately. It's if someone's having a bad time in your organization, you're doing something wrong. So I feel like as a leader, your job is to find out what people are good at, give them more of that, and then shift the other tasks to a different role.
And I feel like early on in your role as an entrepreneur, you invested heavily into coaching and into courses and podcasts and audiobooks and all those types of things. So can you kind of talk about how important consuming that type of content compared to everything else that's available for us to consume, you know, especially as young men? Like, talk about that content and what it did for you.
Yeah. I jumped on that stuff before it became popular.
Yeah.
You know, now you have, you know, Ryan Panetta, Alex Hermosi, Cody Sanchez, all those people that are pushing this stuff on Instagram, they're great. You know, the message is great, but I feel like it's a little overplayed a little bit now. All of what they're doing came from the books, the audiobooks that you listen to, or the books that you read. So if you have the want to get better and grow personally and professionally, all that information is out there. Could I place a quantifiable amount on what that has done for my life? Probably not. It's made me into who I am. The seminars, the books, the thousands of dollars that you spend on someone teaching you their mindset is super important. And that part of the way that I am right now is because I did that. I did that stuff. The Arete Syndicate with Andy Frisella and Ed Milet, you know, that was a big expense at my early stage in you know, career or professional development. But I did that so that I could say, hey, what don't I know? What things should I be learning to develop into the person that I want to become, the leader that I want to become, to manage, you know, people.
Mm-hmm. So I do want to talk about Fortified in just a bit, but you know, I'm going through my head of the chronology of you know, starting your company, right? And then COVID hits. Oh. And COVID was huge for everybody who owned a business. But for me personally, that was the point at which you and I'd say even connected further than we ever had before. And the reason why, for those listening at home, is because all of the gyms were closed and there was nowhere for us to work out. And luckily, in 2019, before COVID hit in early 2020, I had invested in a garage gym. And so I had spent probably $3,000 on gym equipment, and my wife and I would work out in there, and you know, she did bodybuilding as well. And Aldo would come over every morning at 4:30, and we work out in my garage. And we did the pen and paper strength app.
Yep.
And it was at that time where we really dug into what it took to own your own business. And I've never said this before on a podcast or really publicly, but if there was one person that gave me the motivation to start this company, it was you.
That's awesome.
And it's from our time together in the morning. And it was the constant motivation, like, you can do it. Like, if I can do it, if this is Aldo saying, if I can do it, John, then you can do it. Mm-hmm. And here's the tools that I used, and here's the podcasts that I listened to, and here's the seminars that I went to, here's the people that I met. You know, I looked up to you, and still do, but I looked up to you because you were just like me. Yeah. Just like me.
Right.
You didn't have anything else that I didn't have.
Yeah.
And you did it. And you had the balls to do it. And granted, like, you just went for it.
Yeah.
And I, you know, at the time, I think I was obviously married. I think I had one daughter and then another on the way. And I felt like I needed more security than maybe you needed when you took that leap.
For sure.
But at the same time, I had you in my back pocket, and you, I don't know who you had, but for me, I mean, can you think of the endless hours that we had spent on the phone designing this thing?
Yeah.
And you told me where it would go, and I said, dude, there's no way.
Yeah.
And so I just want to honor you and thank you for doing that, for being such a great friend, because it was in those early mornings from 4:30 a.m. to 6 a.m. when everybody else was sleeping that this company was born, and that now we're able to employ 15 people and, you know, have hundreds of clients and, you know, do amazing things in the community, but all because you were able to show me what was possible.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's a lot of stuff to unpack there, and it's very powerful. The feeling's mutual, man. We help each other become better. Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, I mean, was it right after COVID hit that we started going to the gym?
Yeah, well, because the gyms were closed.
Yeah. I think I got a Peloton, you know, to try to fill the gap. I was going to Orange Theory every day, Right now, you might not notice it. I took a break. I call it a break, but I'll get back into it.
And you did a marathon.
I did a marathon. Yeah. Being active, I tell this to my parents all the time, and they kind of roll their eyes, but humans are not made to be sedentary.
Yeah.
So that is part of what you have to do to become a better, person. But yeah, that's at that time I was in the Arte Syndicate with Andy Frisella and Ed Milet. We'd have, monthly calls. They opened my eyes up to, different methods of doing things, books to read. And I remember talking to you about them. I kept notes, so we talk about that stuff. Everybody has limiting beliefs. And I think the most powerful thing, and you alluded to it, was you saw someone that you went to school with doing all these things. And then you said, hey, why not me? Right? I think that the Michael Jordans of the world are a little too far removed from people's daily lives for them to say, hey, I can do that too. Right? No, it's always, oh, he's got talent. He's special. No, he put in the work, right? So us being so close and you seeing what I was doing and taking the risk, I don't really think of it as risk. I think it's more risky to stay where you're at.
Amen.
But that really opened your eyes to, what was possible. And if I can do it in a niche market like home inspections, why can't you do it, in accounting? I remember having a conversation, I forget why we had met together or got together, but it was at my wife's mom's house, my mother-in-law, and her husband, Dutcher, was saying, hey, you should definitely do what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So there's no reason why you can't.
Yeah, at the time, I was, I kind of maxed myself out at Epic, and I started applying to other jobs. And I was, talking to Dutch about it, and he said, well, why don't you start a company that provides fractional accounting services to both?
Yeah.
And I just thought it was so crazy. Like, I mean, I had heard of people doing that, but dude, that does not work in real life. Yeah. And the next thing you know, 3-4 years later, we get named best accounting firm in Baton Rouge. And we've got thriving culture and amazing clients and amazing people, guests on the show. And so looking back, I was talking, I went on this guy, Stuart Gillies podcast earlier this week, and we had this conversation. He's a great guy, by the way. Great entrepreneur, connector. And if you remember our senior retreat, our parents wrote us letters. And I could just tear up just thinking about it because, my dad wrote me one, my mom wrote me one. And those letters are really a time capsule of where we were at in our life, right? And, you were with me when I freaking got arrested at 14 years old, remember?
Yeah.
I think you came those next 48 hours after I got in that dumbass fight, like you were with me the whole time. And man, it's just bringing me back to high school. And, I haven't ever talked about that story. It's probably a story for another time, but looking at that letter that my parents wrote me, they told me things in that letter that you told me 10 years later. And that people had told me 10 years before my senior year, but I never believed it.
Yeah.
I never believed it.
Yeah.
And the minute that I saw in myself what other people saw in me, game changer.
Yeah.
And I can't really place it other than the fact that it was at some point I saw people for the imposters that they really were. Because we all have imposter syndrome for ourselves. Yeah. But what about these people who we look up to, who we think are amazing businessmen, or, they just make deals? Like, they're just like me, you and me.
They're just regular people.
They're just like you and me.
And that's a conversation I can remember, not so vividly, but that's a conversation we had, in your gym. The things that people recognize in other people, are true. We're not ready to receive it.
Right.
So whenever we are ready to receive it, it's so bittersweet, man. Because had I known what I known 10 years ago, 15 years ago, where would I be now? But that's the thing, right? That's life.
And we find ourselves comparing our rough draft to someone else's final product.
Yeah.
Like, no, compare your rough draft to someone else's rough draft if you're going to compare at all.
Right.
Because anybody who gets to a point in their life or in their career that is one of influence, and they say that they were always great and that they never made mistakes, they are freaking liars.
Not true. There's no
Liars.
self-made. There's no self-made people.
No one is self-made.
We're all cumulatively the combination of every single person that we've met. So,
And so, you know, we're working out, you know, your business starts really thriving.
Yeah.
You know, talk about that.
it was really nobody knew what was going to happen when COVID, the lockdown started.
Mm-hmm.
You know, 2 weeks to flatten the curve. But you know, it was really scary for about a week, and then all of a sudden, you know, Jerome Powell and the Fed cut rates to almost like nothing, to zero. Right?
I don't know if it went that well. The Treasury rate might have gone that low, but our mortgage rates got into the twos.
Yes, they were in the twos. So the housing economy boomed, and it was a synthesized. We will never be where we were at, you know, during that time period. That created kind of a false sense of security and a lot of confidence really quickly, because you're like, man, what do I do with all this business?
Yeah,
I got to hire. I got to, increase my infrastructure. I got to do everything. After about 2.5 years, you know, whenever the inflationary rates started, you know, affecting people adversely, they started, you know, upping rates, and mortgage rates climbed and climbed and climbed, and it really put a damper on our, you know, industry. And it still has a little chokehold on it right now.
Sure.
What are mortgage rates? 7.5%.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you think about it, the buyer-seller industry is a shell of what it was, especially during that time period. But even the years leading up to it, you know, 2016 to 2019, rates were fluctuating from 3s to 4.5.
Yeah.
You know, so we had a decade of prosperity.
Yeah.
Right. So imagine going through that and then getting punched in the mouth, where literally your volume is cut in half out of none of your own doing, the economy. So you really had to put your thinking cap on, get creative, and figure out, you know, how can I pivot? What needs to be done? And I don't consider, you know, whenever somebody says they're lucky or they're fortunate, yeah, you may be fortunate, but what has led you to that fortune? What has made you, you know, open your eyes to the possibility of, you know, another avenue of revenue? And that's where Fortified comes in, right? We heard, you know, rumblings of it. The Fortified standards are a way to build more resilient structures. We desperately need it in the Gulf Coast. We have an insurance crisis going on in tandem, like while all this stuff is happening. I said, okay, hey, we need to do what we need to do to make ourselves experts in this Fortified thing, so that we can help as many people as possible, you know, doing that. And that translated into, hey, now we've got not only the home inspection division, but the Fortified division too. And that's been awesome.
So let's dive a little deeper into the Fortified piece, because, you know, you as, I guess, a consultant are able to help out in different directions, right? You're able to get on the roofer side and help out the roofer. You're able to meet with the homeowner and help them out from their side. You know, kind of talk about what it is that you do for Fortified. Like, where do you add value in the process?
Yeah. So before I get into my role, I'm going to break down what Fortified even is, right? So the insurance companies and the underwriters, they all pay into this pot to figure out how to build better houses, because that ultimately reduces their risk. Yeah. Right. It mitigates their risk. That pot is called the Insurance Institute for Business and Home Safety, the IBHS. All they do, they're a research and science institution. They're nonprofit. All they do is build houses to tear them down, right? They build houses, they synthesize extreme weather events, whether that be tornadoes, hurricanes, wildfires, and they say, okay, this house didn't hold up, this house did. What were some of the things that we deployed in the construction of this house to make it to where that happened? And we need to make it happen everywhere, there's a hurricane, right? So they developed these standards, they packaged it. Fortified is a registered trademark. It doesn't just mean stronger, right? And they reached out to contractors, roofers, builders, engineers, inspectors, and they reached out to us to be a part of their network, right? Essentially, once you're in the network, you are certified in fortified installations and inspections, and you can oversee. What we do as an inspection company is we oversee these projects. We make sure that the materials that are being used are fortified approved, that the standards are being followed. They're very specific standard details for installation on every aspect of the build, and that we apply to the IBHS for the homeowner to receive their fortified designation certificate. You get a certificate. It's got a QR code that brings you to a database of houses. Your house is on there once you get a fortified roof, or you build fortified gold. So where we fall in is we oversee the construction to make sure everybody is adhering to the standards. One of their biggest pillars and I guess core values is integrity. The only way to strengthen integrity is if you have a third-party individual who's helping monitor the project too.
It's actually one of Attract's 5 core values.
There you go.
We've touched on like at least 5 of them.
Yeah.
I mean, Attract's core values: be cool, extreme ownership, integrity, drive, and family. And we'll get to family in a minute. But I'm curious. With Fortified, the ultimate goal. Well, maybe not the ultimate goal, but there's a huge benefit to the homeowners, right? So can you talk about that?
Yeah. So aside from building stronger and more resilient, meaning if a Category 5 hurricane comes through, if you have a fortified roof, you might lose some shingles. But the roof deck is going to stay on. The wood that's underneath the shingles is going to stay on. And you have a sealed membrane on top of it so that no water gets in. If you think about it, the restoration companies can talk about it too, that most of the damage that's done after a hurricane comes through is either flooding or your roof is damaged and now you have water inside, right? That's more than just a roof repair. That's tens of thousands of dollars, of work on the inside of your home. So it really displaces people. You have that aspect. You can't go back home, right? You got to find a temporary solution for, living somewhere. But also, aside of building better and having that peace of mind, insurance companies are wanting to offer discounts for this because it mitigates their risk. It reduces their risk. So if they know that you have a stronger, better built home that is able to withstand, hurricane storms, hurricane events, they're going to reduce your insurance premiums. And that's the insurance crisis that I was alluding to earlier. The whole Gulf Coast, not just Louisiana, but the insurance premiums are super high.
Yeah.
So if you go into the coastal parishes of Louisiana, we're a little insulated from it up here because we're further removed from the coast. But you have people, and I'm not exaggerating, paying $20,000, $25,000 a year in insurance premiums. And this is on a fixed mortgage, right? This is something that you expected to be what it was. Yeah. Maybe plus or minus a few $100 every year because of property taxes. But now you're having to pay $1,000 more a month because your insurance premium went up unexpectedly. Yeah. So that it's I did not expect it to be as bad as it is, but it is pretty bad. And it's not nationwide, so I feel like it's not getting as much attention.
Yeah. But I just know from houses that we've looked at together for a house that needs a roof that goes just traditional roof versus fortified roof, in some cases you can cut your premium almost in half, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. Now, if you're in central Louisiana and you're paying $3,000 in an insurance premium in State Farm, how much lower can you possibly get? Right. But if you're on Louisiana Citizens in Orleans Parish and they're the insurer of last resort, you're paying $15,000, right? So you getting a new roof and a fortified roof affords you the opportunity to shop around and go with the carriers that recognize, the resilient building standards. And yeah, I've seen it cut in half. People, I like to do my own community outreach just because I'm curious. Hey, what benefits did you see from your fortified roof? I'm saving $800 a month.
Wow.
So that's a reality.
Mm-hmm. And so, kind of looking forward, right, for you personally and you as a business owner, so professionally, what's next for you, right? Because you've done, the HDMK franchise, you've scaled the team, you've moved into Fortified. It seems that you've got a lot of momentum going there. Where do you see really the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think you and I both have Mamba mentality. Rest in peace, Kobe. Job's not done.
Yeah.
Right. So to answer that question, I think after I'm done, putting all the systems and processes in place for my company currently, it would probably take me a couple months of, introspective reflection to figure out what I want to do, after that. Obviously, I'm not going to let the inspection company go away, right? I'm always going to continue to develop that. But as my time frees up from, going 100% day to day to, hey, maybe 50% day to day, where do I focus my energy next? And I think I am, going through entrepreneurship, your strengths and your weaknesses very, very well. You're the only one that you have to face. I'm really good at integrating, right? I'm really good at systems and processes, finding problems and then finding solutions to those problems. So I don't think the entrepreneurial ride is going to stop. Where that's going to take me, I don't have a specific answer yet, but it will be, helping more business owners. It will be, acquiring more businesses, consulting on a large scale. So,
and so, you were probably one of the last people in our friend group to get married. You were probably on the tail end of people having kids. Like I've got almost a 6-year-old now, and you have, a 1-year-old son and now a daughter on the way. And when we used to live together, you said you would never have kids.
Yeah.
And now here you are about to have your second.
Yeah.
So what has that transformation been like over the last, 5 years?
I don't give her a lot of credit, because you learn to expect a certain thing, from your significant other. But Aaron, I'm going to tear up right now too. Sorry.
No, you're good, dude.
I will say that I would not be where I'm at without her.
Preach it.
So you meet the right person, man, and stuff changes.
Yeah, no doubt.
So
I feel that. I mean, that's the same with me and Lexi. And, we were idiots before, we got married. We're still probably a little idiotic at times. But how great is it to have a partner who's always got your back, right? Like through thick and thin, through kids and the fear and the anxiety of being an entrepreneur. And I mean, the fact that you guys are both entrepreneurs, right? Like nothing's guaranteed for you guys' income ever.
Yeah.
And it's the same in my household too, right? Like my wife is a full-time mom. We got our 4th kid on the way,
right.
A son. Did I tell you that?
Yeah.
And so, it's just, we're a different breed. Entrepreneurs are a different breed. Nothing's guaranteed. And, it's good to have solidarity in that too, right?
Yeah.
Like someone to relate to, someone who, we can have open conversations about money and it not be ego driven.
Right.
Right. Because, at the end of the day, we're really all providing for our family.
Yeah,
Know?
absolutely.
And, it's really been amazing to see your development, as a husband, as a father, because, I can little bro you on that because, I'm ahead of you on that. But, just to be so connected to, another adult male and another alpha, it's just so rewarding, for us to still be friends.
Yeah, it's refreshing, dude. Like, I look at you and we have the past, but we also have the future. It's nice to know that we've been through stuff. Not necessarily together, but at the same time. It's refreshing.
So closing question here. We talked a little about limiting beliefs earlier, right? Is there something that sticks out to you that was some bad advice that you had listened to, through the years that like in your head became truth, and then, you become a pro, or you become a dad, or you become a husband, and the way that you used to see the world, you can now realize that maybe you weren't completely right about it?
That's a great question.
I'll say for me, like, how many times have we been conditioned to think like, get a good job with great benefits and PTO and consistency and, playing it safe and working to your 65 and retiring,
going to, college preparatory high school, that was ingrained.
Yeah,
Into us,
become
right?
a great employee.
Yeah, become a great employee. And then I guess another thing that, people talk about, but it seems kind of played out right now, but also like money is, you shouldn't be chasing money, right? Well, you're thinking about it incorrectly. I have a responsibility to increase my revenue, to help my community.
Yeah.
That's the way I think about it. So like people who say that, money's not everything, or, you're greedy, you're thinking too much about money. They don't understand the mindset shift that you and I have.
Yeah.
Right? It becomes, I have a overwhelming sense of responsibility, not to just me, my family, and the people that I employ, but to my community to do something impactful. So that's the extreme ownership aspect of it too. Like, money is not bad.
Yeah.
Money is a tool for you to do good, right? So that's probably, I can't say it's advice, but subconsciously something that's perpetuated, growing up the way we grew up, that is communicated that I don't agree with, so yeah.
Well said. So kind of in closing here, we've talked probably more personal than we have about business, but this is our podcast, so we could do whatever we want.
Yeah.
But if folks are more interested in learning about the home inspection process or the fortified roofing process, how could they get in touch with you?
Yeah. So www.hdmk.net. That's our inspection website. You can look us up on Google. We have locations in Baton Rouge, New Orleans, the North Shore, North Louisiana, Colorado, and Tampa. They're all franchise locations, but we're expanding. They can reach out to me, personally. If you want to blast my number, put it on there, you can. I'm always down to provide value some way or another. So through a text message, answering questions, stuff like that. But yeah, look us up, hdmk.net. We're your one-stop shop for anything inspection related.
Love that. Well, thanks again for being here, dude. This was a lot of fun. Very nostalgic.
Yeah.
Very, it got real.
Yeah.
And that's what we wanted to do with this platform. And so once again, for all of you guys listening or watching, if there are any of you out there, thank you so much for your support of Attract, HDMK, the Fortified Roofing Program. And we look forward to seeing you next time on Kickin' Assets. See ya.